Hey everyone, happy Monday. So I wanted to have a chat today about when political campaign starts to look like creator marketing. There's been a lot of recent news reporting around Joshua Bonehill-Payne and the fact that this has put creator-led political content back into the spotlight. So he was identified by Channel 4 News as being the person behind the Crewkerne Gazette, I think it's called. That's a political satire channel using AI-generated videos and AI-generated raps that's generated a lot of attention. But he's obviously also been the subject of other reporting following his selection as a Conservative candidate for councillor and the understandable fallout from that terrible decision. So we're not going to get into that, but that story I think raises a wider set of questions about political communication in the new social media environment, creator influence, and also of course about accountability. So political campaigning is now starting to share some of the same kind of dynamics as creator marketing. You can argue Andy Burnham's leaning into that. You can argue Nigel Farage has. For a long time, political parties, campaign organisations, traditional media had a much clearer role in controlling how their message was distributed. They want to get to an audience, they have established channels through which to do it, they have media buys they can make, but that landscape, of course, is now way more fragmented. Influence has been democratised and it sits with individuals who have, as you would expect, built their own audiences, built their own formats, built their own communities. And they often go after political commentary in particular. Those relationships tend to be independent of the organisations that may later benefit from them, as in this particular case. That's obviously going to feel familiar to brands and agencies. Creator and influencer marketing have already shown for years that the people with the strongest audience connection, the strongest audience relationships, aren't always the easiest to control. You go out to PewDiePie and Disney, for example. Their value often comes to the fact that they're seen as independent, anti-establishment, recognisable, able to speak up in their own voice. That, of course, creates an opportunity, but it also changes the governance picture. Creator relationships never tend just to be about reach and engagement. They will often involve questions about transparency, objective claims, approvals, brand safety, contractual expectations, reputational issues, and certainly accountability. In political campaigning may well increasingly have to deal with similar kinds of questions. A party may not create a piece of content, but having said that, it may not control the creator's audience either. It may not direct every message. It may be able to exert very little control, but it still may be judged for engaging with, amplifying, or benefiting from that influence. That, I think, is where the direct comparison now with creator marketing is starting to become a lot more relevant, a lot more useful. When influence sits outside of institution, responsibility doesn't always move neatly with that. And I think the audience relationship may belong to the creator, but certainly the reputational, the legal, the governance consequences may well travel an awful lot further than that. And as political communication, political campaigning starts to become more content-led, starts to become more creator-driven to reach new audiences, that distinction may start to become even more important. And the challenge may not be simply how organisations access influence, but it may well be how they manage the responsibilities that arise when influence belongs to someone else. So, cheerful stuff to think about on a Monday, mainly because I'm still recovering from Bloodstock 2026 with my teenage son and best mate over the weekend. But I hope you had as good a weekend as I did, and I'll talk to you soon.